To order. We have no regrets. The gang's all here. You have an invitation to stand. Feel free to stand anytime you want. We have to approve the agenda. Is there any addition to the agenda? Seeing none, we will make a motion to accept the agenda as it stands. Moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Pardon me? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Now we will move to number 4, the adoption of the minutes. I'm sorry. There's a conflict of, if anybody has a conflict of interest, please say so now, and you can say when the time comes. Then we will move to adoption of the minutes, number 4. Does anybody have any omissions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as they stand. Number 5, staff reports. The department head report. There is, we always go through this every once in a while. There are active projects, and there's 2 attachments. Active projects is the first one. Is there any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll go to the second attachment, which is the completed projects. Any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll go to number 5B, clerk report, the ongoing projects. Is there any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll go to the second attachment, which is the completed projects. Any questions on that? Seeing none, we will go to the building permit report. That is a report that we have every once in a while about the projects in the community. And does anybody have any questions on those permits? No? Seeing none, we'll go to 6, 7-day notice. Article C50, Council Procedural Policy. That is a policy, and there's an amendment in there that we added a couple weeks ago. It's about the public presentation, where the public comes and makes a presentation, and we do not answer that presentation at the time. We delay it for the next meeting. Does anybody have any questions on that one? No? Okay. We will go to 7B, Article 6.6, which is public presentation, which is basically an echo of the previous one. It's just to describe how it works. It's the same language, same thing, same amendment. We have to make a motion for this, don't we?
No, because it's 7-day notice.
7-day notice. Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Okay.
I just had a question. Excuse me. I just had a question around the language in 1.1. So the purpose, it talks about to establish a policy to provide a regular opportunity for members of the public to make presentations to council. It goes on, the language piece that I have a bit of an issue with is just a little bit further down where it says, this policy is not intended to limit councillors from lobbying other councillors or council itself from time to consider matters of general interest in their respective districts. That was something that I questioned about because technically, ethically, we're not really permitted to lobby other councillors. Are we, CAO Muse? I guess that's a question for you. Sorry, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Oh, by the way, congratulations. This is your first meeting. I just thought I would say that out loud. I know it's, no pressure.
Watch me stumble.
No pressure, yeah. If you need help, we're all here for you.
Thank
you. The answer to the question is generally speaking, outside of the meetings, lobbying is not appropriate. I think the language is more meaning for the council table itself, because there's often debates and there may be lobbying and debates within the group. The rules are very clear on this, that it should not happen in a smaller group. You can ask questions about issues. I'm sure you talk about issues outside of this council all the time. You know, what should we do about this and how does that work? But that's okay. It's I think I'm gonna vote yes on this. What about you? That's not appropriate at all. So I think the language here is not clear enough to indicate that it's lobbying during the meeting.
Okay.
So what I would propose is to simply add during the course of the meeting. And we could also, if it pleases the council, that we could make sure to understand, like maybe cite the fact that that is not appropriate outside of a meeting.
Right.
We can do one or both of those things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that was, so what article were we on?
We're on C.
So is there any more questions on that item? No?
So, okay.
You're not the chair. You can't call yourself.
I'm just used to it. Yes, so could we direct you, can we have you do that, change the language, just clarify the language for us, if that's okay?
I'm okay with doing that. I just wanted to make sure that council as a group was okay with that, as opposed to being one question. So I don't need a motion, I just need nods to say, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we move on to 6C, new article C55, internal controls policy. That is a new policy, correct? And it basically outlines the way the internal staff here is supposed to work. I think it's a great policy. I've read it over. Is there any questions on that? Seeing none, we will go to 6D, Article C56, credit card policy. And there's an attachment, and again, this is a new policy. It's just to outline the safeguards, checks and balances of handling a credit card. Does anybody have any questions on that? Councillor Digdon? No. I'm sorry, I thought you were. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to 7 for decision and discussion. Review of hospital expenditures reimbursement policies. There are 2 attachments. I do believe we need a motion for this one, correct? Yeah. And that is to, basically, it reviews it comes up from time to time to review the past policies, and we need a motion to accept it. Any questions on that one? Anna?
Am I good? Okay. There are 2 attachments to this. There's travel expense and hospitality expense, so 2 motions would be necessary. I only said 1 at the last. And these policies, just to, I guess, repeat, at the beginning of every council term, these have to be reviewed again. And that's for 2 reasons. One is you should be aware as a council, that you're being held accountable in this way. And expense claims of council are on our website, and they are shown on our website, and that was something that the province decided, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, because there was just a lot of unknowns around that. So it was in the interest of increasing transparent transactions to the public. And I think it's probably all I'd have to say on that. I just wanted to clarify there were 2 motions here and not 1.
Okay, so Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I would absolutely make those motions on both accounts to accept these policies as submitted.
Do we have a seconder? Can you make 2 motions in one?
No, do they have to be separate? Okay. So I will make a motion to accept the hospitality policy as submitted.
Second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, motion approved. Pardon me? All in favor? It's faster than her.
He's just trying to beat me.
I'm trying to beat her out. So can we have a motion for the second amendment, or, yeah?
Yeah, I'll make the motion for expense claims reimbursement policy.
So seconded, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, motion approved. 7B, YASTA bylaws, there are two attachments there as well. And I do not believe do we need a motion for this one?
You do, the motion is different. Because the YASTA bylaws are owned by YASTA, the request here from the organization is for you to adopt these changes. You're not accepting or approving them, you're adopting them, because it's theirs to approve. They just need the endorsement from the owner.
Okay, so again, there are two, thank you, Ella, there are two attachments. Attachment 1, do we have a mover for attachment 1?
So moved.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Now, can we have a motion for the second attachment? Second. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion approved. 7C, first reading bylaw, heritage property there's one attachment. This is relatively new. It's combining the heritage property with the PAC. Yeah. Any questions on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a clarification on the changes. The changes have been reviewed by legal, and they were a lot easier than I thought they would be. So we're basically, all we're saying is that the PAC will act as the Heritage Property Advisory Committee. The MGA requires us to have a heritage bylaw, and how you do that is up to you. So these changes reflect the law of the MGA as well as what the solicitor told us to do, and this will enable the work to continue.
So we need a motion for that.
Absolutely, yes.
Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All approved. 7D, which is solid waste contract request for proposal. There is a very lengthy attachment to this, and I believe it's Alain has been in charge of this contract, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, so you've had the chance to see the detail of this, the 100 and so page request for proposal. We don't typically put the whole request for proposal on agendas. It's really kind of a long document, but this has some significance, and it's a request for decision is also attached. We get concerns, calls, complaints, compliments about solid waste collection and so right now the service, as you are fully aware, and if you're not, you will be, it's every 2 weeks, all garbage is picked up from Monday to Thursday. So so in a 2-week cycle, like in a 4 times 2, 8-day cycle, everybody in the resident of Argyle has their garbage removed. Everybody that's on a public road gets that automatically. Those that are on private roads, because of liability reasons, the trucks can't go down those roads. And in some cases, those private roads might even be like modified driveways, so they're not really, we might call them private roads in the municipal world, but in the residential world, that's a long driveway. So we don't do that, obviously. So it's curbside pickup, not that there's a curb, but that's what it is. And so a lot of people, there are some inconveniences that happen across the municipality. We're aware of them. We know that Montague Road and other roads similar to that, Bailing Lane, there are some shorter private roads that that the residents have to bring their garbage out to the main road, and that's, it does cause certain inconveniences. Other factors include, the garbage is picked up on one side of the road. The reason behind that is to protect the safety of the pickup, the hauler. Now, a very legitimate counter to that is, well, it doesn't exactly protect the senior if they have to cross the road to put the garbage at the side of their road. We try to coach those residents that are having those problems. In some cases, we've made some exceptions, but 99% of the time, this is how it's collected, and it's because the hauler picks up, how many stops, right? So we have to be mindful that there's liability there. Last thing, so we did consider internally and in discussions with third party whether these services ought to be improved. Okay, and so we've heard a couple of conversations around this table, and I've made a recommendation to you. It's ultimately up to you to decide. I kind of gave you an email, kind of a not a warning, but just like, here, heads up, this is the information that might be coming. So obviously the weekly pickup is something that people love to see, especially in the summer. We can talk about how the green bins are lovely at the summer time of year. Not so much now, everything's frozen. So, but then there's also the idea that that it would be so picked up weekly is an improvement to service. We've looked into the cost differential on that, and we were very concerned with the result. We're expecting, based on history and based on COVID and based on other tenders that have gone through, these increases to garbage pickup are going to be rather considerable. I don't want to taint the tendering process. I don't think it's not a secret when we talk about other tenders that have come out and they've come out higher. We've seen that across the board. So our concern around risk management is you start tooling with the services, and not only is your tax going to go up, your tax is going to go up. So we think that we don't know how much it will cost because it will depend on the service improvement. But we're concerned that the price could generate a significant increase to the point where tax increases would occur. And those tax increases, could be as high as 7 cents. It could be as low as 2 cents. We don't really know. But again, it's a competitive process. We don't know. So seeing that was more of a, okay, timeout. We're not recommending that the service change right now. There are a variety. I'm sure some people would appreciate an increased service in some cases, but in a lot of cases, maybe people appreciate the fact that the tax doesn't go up either. So there's a bit of a measure there that we're trying to as financial advisors to you, we're trying to say, look, there's a lot of things going up right now, and we may not want to do this. The other reason why I wouldn't change the service during this request for proposal is that we have a lot of uncertainty around extended producer responsibility. And that is the money that we will get from industry to pay for recycling pickup and recycling tipping fees or recycling whatever. So all those fees are supposed to be paid for by industry, but we don't know what that looks like. So my recommendation is that we go into the request for proposal with the same service as we had 5 years ago. This is a 5 or 7 year deal. If council decides that it wishes to improve that service in the future, it could revisit the contract. So it isn't a one and done, you can never touch it again. So I just for now, I think the right thing to do is to get the services in as standard. I will say that I looked into the marketplace around demand for staffing demand, et cetera, because you have to, it's one thing to ask for a service, but it's another thing to say, well, can the service be provided? And quite frankly, we don't really know. We do know that there are staff shortages in the area, and so if you go from biweekly to weekly, it's more people, right? There's more to it. So I don't know that is an appropriate course of action at this time. So that's the long of it. If there are any questions or concerns around this, let me know. Most of this, I think, is in the request for decision. It's a heck of a lot more summarized than what I just did right now. And if it is in your interest to agree with that recommendation, there is an enclosed motion that I would recommend.
So Councillor Madden.
It pertains to solid waste, but a question while I was campaigning was the way we bill the residents is on their assessment. Oh, you're shaking your head, so you know where I'm going. So just, even for my information, I never even thought of it. So we're billing through the assessment
Correct.
and not individual houses.
No.
Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely,
Thank you.
yeah. Yes, I can. So there's a history around this because when we first started this this taxation, we taxed the house. So this is before the McCoke dump closed, right? This is 1980 something, like early 1990s, where we all had individual local dumps, right? So they all closed. The government said you can't do that anymore. So then we had to establish something larger, and we did. And at that time, we charged per household. And the residents had an uproar around it. They didn't like that concept at all. So then the council at that time decided to go on an assessment, and I'll explain to you the difference. A per household fee is generally a standard fee per household. One house, one fee. And so what would happen is those that had dilapidated houses were paying exactly the same as somebody with a wonderful home. And it was something that was it was the only thing it was the only service that we provided that we considered doing it on a per household basis. Every other taxation, like everything else that we do, RCMP, et cetera, is on assessment. Is it a perfect system? Heck no. But everything else was being done that way. So the difficulty of having it this way is that those with really nice houses generally pay more, even if they don't actually necessarily produce the same garbage. They may not, right? They may be one person sitting there with one bag, and there may be some houses that have a lot of garbage because for whatever reason. And so it seemed, in some cases, it seemed a little unfair that somebody didn't use the service would pay that much more for the service. And I feel like the answer that I've given in the past, whether it's right or not, is that it really isn't fair. It's not based on usage, for sure, because I would say that maybe I don't call the RCMP at all in a year, right? But the service is available for my use. So that, to me, was the key, that in the way that I explained it. How right I was, I guess I don't know. But from my perspective, it's that the services are available for all. They may not be used by all. So our biggest expense is the school board expense, 1.8 million, I think it is right now. You may not have a daughter or a son or somebody in school, or you might have 7. And because of how it works, you pay the same based on the value of your home. And so I can understand how that feels unfair to some. I've seen that myself. And I think that anytime we've really looked to reconsider this, I think some were reminded that the other one was worse. And so the per household fee didn't get, it wasn't as accepted by the residents at that time. And so we never changed it since. It is entirely up to council if it wishes to change that. It could change that or any way that we charge taxes as long as it's within the MGA. So that's the elaboration, but I don't want to get into the and don't change it conversation, because that's a political conversation. If you want to look at that, that's up to you. That makes sense?
So is there figures that would show what would be the difference on an average? You know what the average home is worth in the municipality, I think? Yeah.
The answer to that question is not recently.
Yeah.
There may be some back in the day when it was an issue, but certainly not any time recently. It's a very good question. It's something that if council wanted that information, we could certainly provide it for you. We have the data to do this. So it's just a question of asking, and we'll see what we can do.
Just a question, that's something I ran into, and thought this is the place to ask.
Thank you.
So Warden Albright.
I just have a very quick question around EPR. And I guess the question is, I know we're going to be recouping some of those funds back once this is in place. How is this going to impact, like, is it going to, do you feel like we're going to break even? Do you feel like it's still going to be a significant amount of money? What's your sense telling you?
That's a great question. So EPR, the refund is twofold. One is going to the solid waste park, which is the solid waste park in South Ohio, where we have the transfer station. And they are billed for the recycling haul out. So for the actual processing of the recycling fees, we are charged what's called a tipping fee. And it's like 190 something a metric ton. Anyway, that will go away. That will be industry. So there'll be a true savings there. The question on the collections, I suspect that my suspicion is that I would not expect that the money received from industry will cover the cost of collection, which could be a problem. So I think that part of my negotiation, and in the suggested motion, it says to assign me the negotiation on behalf of Argyle with Circular Materials, because Circular is offering a price right now, it's draft, and they're offering escalation based on inflation. But there's no discussion on what's the actual cost of recycling. Because if it doesn't match that, then we're the ones paying for a portion of that cost. That's an ongoing thing. I think it's probably a 90% recovery.
Okay.
But with the increases, you may not see it,
Right.
right? Because everything else is going up, you may not actually see that savings.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, you had mentioned it might be a 5 to 7 year contract, and you said that the EPR, when we recuperate some money from that, we could revisit. So does it allow, the contract allow us to revisit in the 5 to 7 year contract? Did I hear right?
I basically, I don't know that specific language is in the contract, but contracts can always be mutually opened.
Okay.
So I think I know that's what I meant, but what I'll do is before we release it, I may want to put a provision in here to say that that there may be some alternate services. In the past, we did have billing for alternate services. So we asked the bidder to give us alternate prices. We didn't do that in this one, but we could. I would suggest that if that's something that you feel could happen because of the uncertainty, I would add that to the request for proposal. That would depend on whether council feels that could happen in the next 5 to 7. There's no harm in putting it in, to be honest, right? I mean, they would just put the price in, you don't have to take it.
Okay, so there is this, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Any more questions?
I just wanted to just continue the discussion. So you
Okay.
say we could put language in there just in case, so I think it wouldn't hurt to put it there just in case that we can reopen the contract,
Yeah,
or whatever
Yeah.
language it takes.
I'm just gonna go back to 5 years ago and what it included, and what it included is alternate pricing for a weekly pickup.
Yeah,
So I can put the language to say that if alternate services are required, that we can open up a request. But if we don't price it, we're gonna get the price that he or she gives us at that time.
right, I understand that.
And so I could put back the weekly again if you wished, or anything else that you might consider to be an improvement of service. That was the only one that we had 5 years ago, was the alternate price for weekly.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have any further questions? So there's a suggested motion. Is there two motions here?
Yes, there are two suggested motions.
So the first one is to request for proposal for solid waste collection, that the attached proposal act as the principal contract holder for the collection of recycled material.
I'll make that motion.
Any questions?
Just to clarify, if there is an alternate pricing request, now would be the time if you want to put it by motion. So if council wishes to add additional information around contract opening or weekly or anything else, the motion could be amended to say, with this added, right? So the approval with this added would give me the direction I need to make that change.
That would be Councillor Burke's suggestion, correct?
Yes.
Do we want to add that?
We can add that. I'm okay. I moved it.
Okay. We have a seconder? Okay, any questions on that? All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Now, there's the second motion we made. The suggested motion is that council task the CAO to negotiate an agreement with Circular Materials to receive industry funding under the Executive Producer's Responsibility legislation. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, then we move on to 7F, which... 7E? Yes, I'm sorry. Letter from Honorable John Lohr, and that has to do, basically, it's almost like a land use bylaw, I look at it, where they can basically come in and do a lot of stuff that they weren't allowed before. Warden Albright.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. So I received a phone call from Minister Lohr about this letter, and basically, he is looking for our support to support the initiatives that the province is pushing forward. We also had a meeting last night, a Zoom meeting with NSFM, all the wardens, and some CAOs to discuss this letter, because every single warden had this letter, some had the phone call as well. So the NSFM was concerned about this because they feel like it's almost like a carte blanche, giving permission and without a lot of information. So there was a lot of discussion last night around some of the legislation that the Premier is trying to pass. And the concern was that a lot of services are being downloaded onto the municipality at our cost that we will have no control over. So NSFM really, we had a really good discussion around, we feel like if they're expecting these types of things from us, then we should be at the table to have some negotiating power around that with them as well. So it was brought up, it was mentioned that it would be a good idea if the NSFM would get together and send a letter that was endorsed by every single municipality, just saying, we need more information before we can endorse any of this. We'd like to have a discussion. We'd like to have a seat at the table. So one of the CAOs from East Hants actually sent an email to this today, because they asked us as wardens to go back and ask our councils if we would be willing to pass this motion so that it would give myself the approval to send the necessary letters from the NSFM to the province. So this is the motion that they're suggesting. Be it resolved that the municipality of the District of Argyle supports the work of the NSFM in advocating for Nova Scotia municipalities to be at the table with provincial legislative and policy makers when legislation that affects municipalities is being contemplated, and that the warden has autonomy to sign a letter expressing support of the NSFM in representing the needs of municipalities that support municipal autonomy, strong decision-making, and municipal engagement. So they're hoping that every municipality will send a similar letter so that they have the approval from all 49, so that we have a solid voice going to the province. I think that's everything in a nutshell. I also suggested, sorry, Councillor Digdon, for us, we have a strong relationship with our MLA, with MLA LeBlanc. So one of the things that I mentioned is I think, and MLA LeBlanc has reached out and said he'd like to come meet with council as he's done in the past. I think this would be a great time to send an invitation to have him come in to talk to us about this new legislation, because there are a lot of things that I wasn't even aware of, and I'm sure that not everybody is aware of everything. But it felt like a lot was going to be downloaded on us with us paying the bills and having very little say. So that's the suggested motion that I would like to make that motion. If anybody needs me to read it again, I can, but that's what I have to say. Okay?
So, okay, we have a second? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 7F, application for intermunicipal solar project. This is just for an application, doesn't cost anything.
We paid it.
Pardon me?
We've already paid what we had to.
Yeah, it's already been paid. So I guess applying for it is irrelevant. I mean, it doesn't cost us anything. It's probably a good thing. So, any questions on that? Anybody willing to make a motion? Counselor Digdon.
Yeah, it doesn't cost us anything if everything goes right. But this year, the application there now, I believe, is behind us. Like, we put the money up for that. This is to possibly go ahead with the project.
It's been paid for, but I don't know if we go ahead with the project. That still has to be debated. And I think probably our CAO knows more about it than I do.
Yeah, this decision, it's very, very important that we understand that this decision is only to put our name on the application. Once the application is accepted, it could be rejected or it could be accepted. If it's rejected, well, we've invested about $99,000 and change to put in the application. And at that time, we said, look, that's a risk that we were taking. And the risk was reduced by two things. One is that we had a strong team of people making this application. We had a strong application area was doing the application. And thirdly, there would be more. So if you don't make this round, you might make another. So based on that, council made the decision to make that investment. If you don't apply, that money's definitely gone, right? So if you don't put your name on it, that you decided not to do that. If you do and you're accepted, so now what you have is an accepted price for solar, for the sale of solar energy. At that point, if you chose not to proceed with the project, you could still not proceed with the project. But now you have a value that you could potentially recover from your other partners. So now, so what would happen? Right now you're at 22, 24, 25% or something like that in the project. Well, you would go to zero and the rest might pick up the difference. And they would most likely reimburse you for that application, but they would be entitled to all the benefits of that project. You would be done.
That's right. Yeah. And just wondering now, the municipality of Lunenburg, I believe they may have already had a meeting on this yesterday. Do you know, or, yeah, Tuesday possibly, do you know how they're making out, if they approved it, and the municipality, I believe it was of Shelburne?
I'm unaware of a decision. I know that they started having a discussion. I know that the CAO McEwen from Lunenburg had a long list of things on his agenda, and I don't know he got all the way through. I've not been made aware of an approval of this. If they don't approve, you can certainly, the way I would see it is it doesn't change anything. It basically, if you're going to apply and you're successful, now you have a bigger piece of that pie if you wish to have it. I think that this is a bit of a house of cards. If the members get cold feet and they don't want to do this, it might just go away. But I still think the best move for you is to approve for the application. You're really not taking the last step here at all.
No, I just had a couple of questions, and I'm ready to make that motion, that we, approve at least for the submission and that for Oak Hill project.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we'll move on to GRCMP Officer Assessment Request. We had a presentation with the RCMP requesting 5 additional RCMP, And I think the consensus is with our counterpart is to have 3 rather than 5. And there is a suggested recommendation here put forward by a CAO. It's on the attachment. Any questions on that?
I'd like to move that the Municipality of Argyle. Thank you. I'd like to move that the Municipality of Argyle, along with the Municipality of the District of Yarmouth, request the addition of 2 RCMP officers to be filled in the 2025-2026 fiscal year, and a 3rd officer be added in the 2026-2027 fiscal year.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. We move on to 7H, Article C36, Audit Committee attachment.
Can we go back just 1 second?
Sure.
There's a second one as well. Okay, there's a second motion on the.
Oh, yes, sorry.
So I'd also move that the RCMP and the province of Nova Scotia join the municipalities to reevaluate policing resources after the new positions are filled within an 18-month period to examine police effectiveness and additional needs of all parties.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, H, Article C6, Audit Committee. The Audit Committee, does it ask for a motion for this one? To approve? Yeah.
I'll move the audit committee. I'll second it.
Any questions on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. We are to 8?
No, one more in the.
Where is it? Oh, yeah. Volunteer recognition, there's one attachment, and that would be under Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I was approached by Councillor Daniel Muse from the Municipality of Yarmouth. He also sits on the board of the Mariner Center, such as myself. And as you all know, and I'm sure you've all seen the correspondence that's gone around, over the last year, there's been some additional things that have had to take additional work to be done in regards to the Mariner Center. And our previous president and vice president, who were volunteers, spent a significant amount of time and effort, well beyond, I think, what anybody would expect in regards for a volunteer to do, to deal with the items that did come up during the past year at the Mariner Center. What Councillor Muse from the Municipality of Yarmouth approached us with was that they were looking at doing some type of volunteer recognition, and they were approaching his municipality, the Municipality of Yarmouth, Municipality of the District of Yarmouth, and also the town of Yarmouth was also looking at this as well. So we wanted to put a motion forward that to approve a contribution of up to $500 in conjunction with the Municipality of Yarmouth Yarmouth's $500 and the contribution, and the town of Yarmouth's $500 contribution to be used to cover the cost of a gift for the former president and vice president of the Mariner Center as recognition for the additional work they were both faced with over the last year.
I'll make that motion.
A second. Any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 8A, memo to caucus, Premier of Nova Scotia, as an attachment. It's almost the same as what you previously discussed. It's just a letter to say that he wanted to open up Nova Scotia for more business, and I think Warden Albright, hit the nail on the head when she discussed it, and I think it's basically more of the same. However, is there any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll move to, oh, I'm sorry,
So
Councillor Med.
my question is probably to Madam Warden. Is the NSFM also involved with this letter, or have they addressed it?
They didn't address this letter specifically. Sorry, I just shut your mic off. They didn't address this letter specifically because the request for support came from Minister Lohr. So his letter
Yep.
goes hand in hand, though, with this letter. It's just Minister Lohr, because he's Minister of Municipal Affairs, he's the one that made the contact with wardens, so they want that kind of to go. Because he said, can you either send us a letter of support or make a press release saying that your council supports
Yeah.
our initiative? So they do go hand in hand. But it's more, I would say that the letter that we want to send addresses this as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Councillor Digdon.
No?
Yeah, well, no, I guess, and I'm not sure. One thing and I'm all for opening up Nova Scotia and for, hopefully doing more, creating more work and all that. One thing, and Mr. Sonia, our Deputy Warden, has said many times here, and I'll just reiterate that, is offshore wind. We have to be very careful about that in our area, because, it's okay to say in Halifax it's a great idea and we'll do it right across the province, but they have no idea what goes on off these shores here, so that one I'd want to be very careful with.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. In conjunction from Councillor Digdon on what he's indicated with offshore wind, I absolutely think that it's not just offshore wind. Giving carte blanche to the province to do in regards to whatever industry they decide to get in, I think is something we should really have to consider strongly on whether we want to do that or not. I am absolutely for economic development. I am absolutely for using our natural resources and doing them to the best of our ability. However, I'm not sure if, what might be, just because we are a fishing area and we have that concern with offshore wind, there's also other industries in the area that maybe that there's others that could be concerned with. And so when if we, walk away from this or let the province have that carte blanche of doing that, I'm not sure if we're seeing fully what the ramifications could be down the road. And so again, if the province wants to get into doing uranium mining, let's get more information in regards to that before we decide on whether we're going to accept that or not. If the province is going to get into, some form of different type of forestry, and I'm not an expert on forestry by any stretch, but again, let's get more information on that before we determine on whether that is right for our area or not. So that's the only thing that I'd like to add in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor LeBlanc. I tend to agree, and what makes this a little bit more interesting is that the whole province seems to be on board and concerned about the same thing, so, yeah. So any more questions on that? Pardon me? Councilor Surratt.
Yeah, so kind of to reiterate what's being said here, but also a little bit of a concern from the focus of NSFM to assume that these letters mean the same thing. So I think we need to ensure that we have strong clarity that we're sending a letter, we're responding to Minister Lohr, but we also, I think, have to ensure that there's not an assumption on our part that they're the same and that they be treated different, I think.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we go to 8B, congratulatories to Virginia Smith. I do believe that was Mr. LeBlanc.
Yep, thank you. Yes, based on from last meeting, in regards to us honoring Jenny Smith with her induction into the Canadian Swimming Coaches Association Hall of Fame. We do have a letter that I will be delivering to Jenny this week at some point. Everybody has a copy of that letter. And if you like, I can read that letter. Just indicates, Dear Jenny, on behalf of the Municipality of Argyle, I would like to extend our warmest congratulations to you on a well-deserved induction into the Canadian Swimming Coaches Association Hall of Fame in September 2024. This is an incredible accomplishment, a testament to your unwavering dedication, leadership, and excellence in the field of aquatic coaching. Your commitment to both sport and development of athletes has undoubtedly made a lasting impact in our community and beyond. Typically, these letters of congratulations are signed by our warden. We both found it more fitting to come from the local councillor. As a resident of Central Argyle, I have seen firsthand the result of your hard work and passion for coaching, now recognized on a national level. Your induction is a reflection of the positive influence you have had on swimmers, coaches, and the broader athletic community. And it is truly inspiring to all who know you. The influence of those can never be truly measured. We are so very proud of you. It is individuals like you who elevate the spirit of sportsmanship, teamwork, and perseverance, and we are fortunate to have you as part of our vibrant community. We are confident that your continued dedication will inspire future generations of swimmers and coaches to reach for excellence. Once again, congratulations, Jenny, on this prestigious achievement. We wish you continued success in all your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor LeBlanc. Any questions on that? Okay, seeing none, we will go to 8C, letter to Department of Transportation to Don Houston over Wexford Crosswalks at the school. Councilor Boudreau.
I just, thank you, Deputy Warden. I just want to thank the staff of the municipality and our warden, Nicole Albright, for taking the time to write this letter. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Okay, seeing none, going to 8D, letter to Minister LeBlanc, oil exploration. That, there was a moratorium, I do believe, and they want to keep it as such from Georges Bank. Am I correct? No. No, we do, yeah,
You want to, yeah,
yeah, sorry,
or you want to endorse it?
yeah. Any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll move on. 8E. This is a grid approval letter. There's 2 attachments, and they're fairly lengthy. It's for infrastructure development. I think our CAO might be able to answer some of these questions or give us some explanation. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder that we brought up this application process, I'm going to say 3 months ago, and you approved this particular project being the one that met the criteria the most. The project was improvements to wastewater in the Tusket Industrial Park. This letter is agreement from the province of Nova Scotia to pay 741,000 or 742,000, I guess, up to that amount for the project. There's still quite a bit of details to go through on this one in terms of like, you know, the other half, who pays the other half. So we're going to be working on that also as well. But I mean, obviously, this comes as good news when we're able to get 50% funding on a project. I was personally a little surprised that we got this one, just because we got 2 last year, and it was like, oh, okay. Good news is you get the grant, but then the work begins, right? So I just wanted to let you all know that that's successful, signed off, and we'll see that as part of the capital projects of the coming year.
Any more questions on that? Seeing none, we will move on to Barb's Bench. This is an awareness program, it seems, for partner violence. And they want to put benches in the Yarmouth area, and they're asking the 3 municipalities to contribute equally to these benches. It's a great idea, it's a great reason, and I think the cost would be approximately $2,000 per municipality. So, any questions on that? Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea. Reading it, I believe that actually our costs might be lower, because I think they're only looking to put 2 benches between the 3. So our cost would actually be, I think, $1,334, I believe, is what the cost would be. I think this is a fantastic idea, and I'm in full support of this. And so I would certainly make a motion to approve this.
So do we have a seconder? We have a seconder. Any questions? Warden Albright.
Thank you. Deputy Warden? Right. So I was going to talk about that. But before I talk about that, I was thinking, because there's 3 municipalities, 2 benches, I thought it would be nice if we each had a bench. So I know that's a little bit more than what they're asking for. The cost of each bench is $2,000. So I don't know, I just thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had our own in the Municipality of Argyle? So I'm wondering if that's a question that we could ask them. The other thing is, and I spoke to our CAO about that, we don't need a motion for this, because we're going to ask them to apply to our grants to organizations for this, because that was my question, where does the money come from for this? So as long as we're okay with this, we'll get them to apply to the grants to organization on this one. But I think it would be nice to ask if we could have our own
Yeah,
as well.
I fully agree with that.
Okay.
It's a great
Do we
idea.
need a motion for that? Go ahead.
We don't need a motion, to go back and ask for the 3rd. What we'll say is we will contact that organization and let them know to put in an application, and keep in mind that it's 3.
Okay.
Right? And if they choose only 2 in the application, well, then you have a decision to make, right? So I'm thinking if we go back and say, look, we'd like to see 3, I'm sure they'll like to accommodate that, seeing as they want to provide that visibility.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you. Speaking of that, should we advise the other municipal units then of what our plan is here? Because where they've also gone to the other municipal units and they might be looking at only 2 and looking at the cost of 1333, where if we do 3, then that cost is now an additional. So maybe that might be something that you might want to have a discussion with your counterparts. Maybe. Thank you.
Okay, and we don't need a motion, so any other questions? Seeing none, we move to financial request, the Nova Scotia Music Week. There's one attachment. They're asking for $15,667 from each municipality, am I correct? And there is a large amount of spin-offs from this. It's appears to be an investment. I'm sure you've all read this. It's a short attachment, so it's an easy read. Any questions? Councillor Madden.
I guess my biggest problem is the increased room night impact, increased local spending and destination marketing. I just find that we're always paying our 1/3 share, that, you know, the room nights are in Yarmouth, the increased spending is in Yarmouth, the gas stations are in Yarmouth that get the benefit. So just for conversation, my feeling is we're paying too much of this because of what we get back. Just putting it out there for conversation. You know my feeling.
Councillor Boudreau.
I'm just wondering, I know we donate money every year. How much was it last year? Probably a question to our CAO, I guess.
The total funding for YASTA was, I believe, $66,000 to $68,000 core plus project. This request doesn't happen every year, however. So there's seemingly always a special request. So there's like a 65, let's say, on the core, and then there might be a 5 to 10 an additional request for a special project of some sort. This would be this year's potential special project. There is nothing there. We have an agreement that says that we pay 25% of their budget as part of the YASTA bylaws, et cetera. But there is no agreement, to Councillor Madden's point, there is no agreement on your proportion of funding for this particular event. It's really on core funding only. So that's basically approximately, without actually looking, it's pretty close to that number.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So I'd like to add Councillor Madden's question, does it hold any water, CAO? Is that a road we want to go down, is what I'm saying?
That really is a political question for sure. I mean, I don't think that, I think the further away you are from the event, the less impact that the economic spin-offs will have on your community proper. But it could have other impacts. So for instance, maybe there are people from Argyle that work in Yarmouth that may be, more gainfully employed for that period of time. There are other factors for sure. But when you look at economic spin-off, there's absolutely truth in like, well, how far? Like, how far do you go, right? Like, so for instance, Lower Wedgeport the particular organization, the particular community may not see any activity at all based on that event, but it may. And I will say that with Music Week, in particular, they do utilize other venues. So they go into, I believe they've gone into the Village at some point. I know they went to the Tusket Paraba Center because the Arts Center at the Yark is limited as well. They have a variety of different venues there. So they're maybe not staying so much in this area, but they are participating in some way in the area. They like to spread it around. Actually, they don't have a whole lot of choice because there's not that many places they can do this work. That is, I can only speak on the past experience of this. I don't know how it's organized in this time around. There may be, we're currently examining another motion here, but that's a separate question. You guys can continue the debate. We're just looking at another, there could have been a prior motion made that we're looking into right now.
So we need a motion if we're to accept this for funding for $15,667. Does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll move. I'll make that motion.
Do we have a seconder?
I don't know if I can second.
I'll second.
Any questions? Okay.
I just had, I did have a question and a comment. So the other day, we had a meeting with a stakeholder group, ad hoc committee for short-term rental levy, talking about that because we've had a conversation here. And it did come up, and I agree with what you're saying is they tend to stay mostly in Yarmouth, right? So they have the hotels. We don't necessarily have hotels here, but we do have bed and breakfasts, and we do have some smaller Airbnbs. And one of the owners of one of those was here and said that he already has bookings for Music Week. So we may not see the same spin-offs that Yarmouth does, but we do get some economic spin-offs as well. And if they're going to have different venues and they're going to go to the Village and they're going to go, then then hopefully that, that economic impact gets spread out a little bit more. But my question is to the CAO. So this, we haven't budgeted for this. Is this something that you were projecting in our budget that's upcoming? Like, I'm just wondering where this is going to come, the money would come from.
It would, if council wishes to approve this, it will become part of the tourism expense for the year, or expenditure. I think last year we may have had 10,000 for an event, and this is actually requesting 15,600. It would be presented to you as part of the larger budget for 25, 26. Whether, what does it look like in terms of, do you have the money for this? I wouldn't say that you didn't, right? I wouldn't say that at this time, but we're still in preliminaries on that budget.
Councillor Digdon.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I used to think a lot like your question, Mr. Madden, by all means, Councillor Madden. And I still, I know why we can't get as much economic spin-offs down in our area as they tend to get in Yarmouth and that. But having said that, I know, I've talked with a lot of people that come around for these events. They do generate definitely some revenue for our municipality, or in our municipality, I should say. And for $15,000, it honestly doesn't take long and that to exceed that much money as far as generated revenues in our municipality for. I can see where you're coming from. I really used to think long and hard about that. I still do. There's no saying I don't. But for because of the information I've given and seen what this Music Week brings in to this area, I will be supporting the motion myself.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. If I can also just add in regards to that, I think if has a partner with the other municipalities, and yes, Yarmouth is the center, and that's where the things are held. If we don't support this type of stuff, however, then we're not going to have this type of stuff taking place in Yarmouth. And then those economic spin-offs are definitely not going to be coming this way. And once you start losing events like this, it's going to be that much harder to get them back. And so I'm with you. It's regarding the cost to do this and knowing what it does bring. And I'm also somewhat at a, I've organized and Deputy Warden can attest to this, we've organized large events before that have brought in, numerous people to the area. Yes, it was mostly centered around, the town of Yarmouth, but those benefits spread out throughout all three counties, actually, not just the municipalities. And so it's, if you build it, they will come type thing. And again, I think we definitely need to do this. Thank you.
Councillor Surratt.
Yes, thank you, Deputy. When I look at this request, you see that it says it's saying, you could take it from this fiscal year and then part it from this fiscal year, part from the next fiscal year. And so I don't know what our tourism budget is, but I am curious to know if part went with this fiscal year and the next part, why this wouldn't go to grants to organization?
That's an excellent question, Councillor, through you, Mr. Chair. The grants to organization policy specifically excludes organizations that we consider to be subsidiaries. So Mariner Center, Airport, YASTA, Solid Waste, those are subsidiary organizations that they would fall more through the budgeting process. It's generally a lot more consideration, a lot more money, right? Grants are like a lot of smaller amounts. And it's a way to kind of use to fund nonprofit organizations that we don't in any way control. That's the biggest difference. And so I think the other question might have been on the budget. I want to clarify something. I believe I said 65. The budget, the amount was 85, so my apologies for that. I double checked. Last year our budget was, our actuals were 95,500. That was an all-in contribution to the core as well as the event. So this year, I suspect that number will, if this is approved, that number will go up by between $5,000 and, let's say, $7,000 for the coming year. That particular increase, I would not consider to be a huge increase when you look at the totality of your budget. Your budget's like 11.7 to 12 million.
Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I guess my mission was to generate conversation. And
That he did.
thank you for that and your opinions. I just don't think that these organizations should try to get a third every time there's something going on, and they should consider maybe a different ratio. I agree, we do get some. We have people that work in Yarmouth that gets jobs from that. Before council, I'm a business owner. Of course, in a little town, you don't get the traffic. Even with the Congra, I didn't see a whole lot, but I did see some. But I just, in my opinion, let's look at that ratio. Let's not carte blanche it every time. Let's think about it before we approve stuff like this, because they are getting, by far, and you've admitted, they get the most of the action. So thank you for your remarks.
Any further questions? Okay. So there was a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. 9B.
Yeah, just on this, I don't want to lose Councillor Madden's comment on potentially reviewing the funding allocations for future. If you desire the CAO to commence or look into this or have this conversation with YASTA, this can be done through motion of council. So obviously you've approved this one, but if council wishes to have this reviewed, it doesn't mean that the result will be different. We're asking for a review. I think that's an appropriate request, and it can be done via motion after the last one that was just passed. Just as an advice to you.
Is anybody interested in making a motion as I proposed? Saying no, we'll carry on. Still on number 9B, financial request. The request is for $700 for the Plymouth Hall to purchase tables and card tables.
I'd like to move that we approve the $700 for the Plymouth Hall.
Second, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. 9C, Community Grant Request, District 8, which is Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. Just wondering if I have to make those in two separate motions or one motion for both of them? Two? One? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we give $700 to Nouveau Horizon de la Bereni and one to the Public Owned Area Lions Club, each for the amount of $700.
I'll second that.
Second it. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Agenda topics for next meeting, notice of motion by councilors, is there any? Councilor Madden.
Yes, I guess we've all seen all the emails lately, so I think it's time we put ADA back on the agenda for next meeting.
Okay, what's the nature of the,
Well, I'm getting a lot of pressure from my residents to discuss it further regarding the sites that have been proposed and the lack of consultation that they feel, so.
we don't need a motion for that? No.
It's a notice, so not everybody's used to notice of motion, so I'm just trying to get into it. It is not a motion. It is a notice that a motion will occur at the next meeting, right? So that provides the respect and the time for all council to consider the ramifications of that. I would recommend, best way to do that is to probably fill in one of those forms that the request to put it on, because then all the information is there, so all council can understand what you're asking.
Understood?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is that it? Okay, so question period. Was there any questions?
We did have one from Facebook, and we would invite anybody that's here, if they wish to ask a question, they can come up and ask. This is the time where people that are in the public can certainly ask a question if they wish, or not. The question that was asked online was, oh, look, I deleted it. It was, had to do with if EPR, if the extended producer responsibility resulted in cash savings or savings to the Municipality of Argyle, would there be a reduction to the taxpayer's tax rate or tax bill? And the answer that was posted, thank you very much, Scott, is to say we don't know yet. It's too early to know exactly what kind of savings we would have. And obviously, if there was one that council now knows that question was asked, and it's something that they can consider in future, it certainly would not impact this year's fiscal, because we still don't know what that looks like. But, you know, next year and the year after, we'll have a much better idea of what that is. So that was the question, and that's the answer that was posted.
Okay. So again, pardon me? Is there any questions from the audience? No? So I guess we need to move in camera. We need to have a motion to.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.